Hi everybody! Today I'm going to be showing how to make space beads. I made some of these beads recently for Beads of Courage, a great organization. You should check them out, beadsofcourage.org. And I had a lot of interest in how I made these space beads. And I made the top left larger bead on the top left photo, but it's not a great shot because it's an indoor shot. So I also included some of the beads I made for Beads of Courage, which is a sunlight shot where the beads really pop in the sun, just to show you a comparison of indoor and outdoor. So the first thing you need to do is prep a stringer, and you can vary these to your liking, because different blues that you add to a base of black can give you a slightly different effects. So I'm basically using a black rod, and I'm just going to make a small stringer here. This isn't the actual stringer I used to make my bead, because I already had one made, and then I decided after the fact that I need to show you how to make this stringer too. So that's what I'm doing here. And I'm adding some light lapis blue. It's a feutre color. And I'm just putting 3 little stripes on there because this is a small stringer I'm making. And so now I thought I had a light turquoise, but this actually ended up being boro, and I'm like, whoa, this is boro. So I have to remove that, which it pops right off because it doesn't really go together with soft glass very well. So I had to throw that aside, and I'm using a light sky blue. So any kind of lighter blue you want to use is great. You can use turquoises, you can use sky blues, you can use some CIM lighter blue colors. But I found that for the lapis color, I tried to make these in dark lapis also, but the dark lapis seemed way too dark. So the light lapis seemed to work a little bit better for the spacey kind of coloring. But whatever you want to put on there, just a kind of a medium blue and then a lighter blue. And now I'm just striping some transparent black stringer in between, so those blues don't all just meld together and totally cover the black. I want some black striping in there too. So that was just solidifying the black, so the black stays in there a little bit. And I'm just going to heat this out, twist it, and pull it out into just a multicolored blue and black twisty. So basically whatever blues you want to experiment with, that's great. You can even put some, purples in there or some greens in there, or blue greens. So it's whatever you want your spacey bead to look like, the color tone you want it to look like. And so I just pull this out into a twisty, and it's about like, I don't know, 2 millimeters thick or so. 1.5 to 2 millimeter. I'm just going to burn that off, and there's my little blue and black twisty. So now for the bead, I have this sped up. Make sure you preheat your mandrel. You always have to preheat your mandrel really well. You can't overheat it, so don't worry about that. You just want it nice and heated, so no air bubbles form in your glass. And I'm just making a stout barrel here with transparent black. Want to make sure I have my holes all set so they'll be nice and dimpled. And this bead will get a lot bigger as you add more glass. So keep that in mind when you start. So I have a nice stout barrel, and I'm finishing the shaping up here. And now I have my twisty. See, this is a slightly different color twisty, but it's the same thing. And I'm just going to wiggle that on back and forth in different directions. Just swirl it on. Don't totally cover your black, but just swirl it around on top of your bead in all areas. But you don't want to totally cover your black base. You want to leave some black showing. And so I'm just going to melt all that in. And then I'm going to add some reducing color glass. And what I'm using for my space beads here is the Belladonna Moody Blue. which has a really good reduction effect. And so I'm going to be using that as the silver glass on this bead. And so I was using stringer originally, but I didn't have any left, so I'm just going with a rod. It's a thin rod. It's only like a 3 to 4 millimeter rod, so we're okay. And I'm just going to dabble that on here and there around the bead. And then after that, I'm going to heat it and I'm going to swirl it. I'm using the same rod just to swirl it up. So I'm not only mixing the reducing glass, the Moody Blue, I'm also kind of swirling around that blue stringer also. So this is where you get a lot of the variance, and every bead will be different. And you'll have nice little swirls and swipes in different directions on your bead. So now I'm just going to melt that in also, and I'm trying to get it a little more hot. I'm trying to superheat it so it'll also be ready to reduce. And I'm just holding it onto the flame. You want to make sure you keep rotating it and holding your bead out of the flame until the glow totally goes away. So here's my bead, and you could see it's really dark and there's a lot of blues in there, but you can't really see any brightness really. And so I'm going to turn my flame really high up on the propane, although actually I'm turning down my oxygen, so my propane's higher, and I'm just wafting the bead in the background until it gets like a little shine to it. It starts getting a lighter blue, and I get this little sheen on the bead. And let's see, I might have to try to zoom in so you could see it, which I'll do in a sec. But I'm just wafting it around so it gets this little sheen, and I get a little bit of greenish and bluish tones to it. See if you could see that there. It's kind of hard to see. But I have that sheen on there now. So I'll put my flame back to normal, and now I'm going to encase this bead. And I sped this up so you don't have to watch all this layering on of the clear, because it is kind of monotonous. But I usually start at one end, usually my right end, right side, and then I swipe on. I try to swipe on a lot of times because I don't want a really thick layer, and also when it's super hot like that, there's less of a chance of catching air bubbles inside. And so that's what I'm doing here. And as you could see through the clear, you can see that shine a little bit better of that silver glass. You can see it kind of shiny underneath it. It's a little easier to see with the clear. And that's where you get the really neat effects that all look different. Every bead looks different. And it looks a lot brighter in the sunlight. They really pop in the sunlight versus indoor lighting, as you can see from my pictures at the header, at the title page. So I'm just like encasing this clear. I'm pushing it down around the mandrel, getting a little closer, and I'm going to do that on both sides, so I don't have any of that black or that reduction glass, you know, coming to the surface and popping out and maybe discoloring my bead. I want it totally encased in clear. So I'm using my handy dandy little dental tool that I got from Arrow Springs. It's my favorite tool. I use it for shaping and pushing glass around and denting and poking holes. I love that tool. And it's just a dental tool that comes in the multi-set. If you go to Arrow Springs webpage, you'll find it. So now I'm just shaping up my bead. I'm going to round it a little bit, round it out. It's a little crooked, so I'm going to fix that. And I find it the easiest way to actually make like a barrel shape first and then round the ends out, because then I know my bead is fairly centered on the mandrel when I make a barrel first, and then I try to round the edges out after that to make it more round. At least that's the easiest for me. And I'm just going to let it settle out of the flame, keep rotating, and hopefully I'll get a little close-up shot as the glow goes away so you can see kind of the spacey effect in there. And that's it for the space beads. Thanks for watching.